NASCAR announced a street course race that is going to take place in Chicago, that is going to take place on iRacing in the ProInvitational Series. An article has surfaced from October 3rd that Richard Petty says that dirt racing is not professional. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We got quite a few NASCAR stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight to it. Let's start off all the sponsorship announcements from the last couple days. Let's go ahead and just jump straight to it. Let's start off with the title sponsor for the National Truck Series race that's going to take place in Nashville Superspeedway. It's going to be called the Rackley Roofing 200. Like the title name a lot, the sponsor name sounds very, very awesome, and I hope the race is really good for the Truck Series. It's been 10 years since the Truck Series has raced at Nashville Superspeedway, and I think we might see a pretty good race, at least for the Truck Series, as they'll be running a pretty solid package for that race as well. The next paint scheme and sponsor news we're going to go ahead and talk about today is we're going to talk about Ty Dillon's 2021 Bass Pro Shop scheme that we'll see this weekend at Bristol Dirt. This paint scheme looks really, really, really awesome. I love the colors of it a lot. The colors match up very, very good as well. And I think it's overall almost honestly a better paint scheme for Ty Dillon than the original. I thought the original Bass Pro Shop scheme he had for trying to qualify for the 500 was a little bit better. But I really like this paint scheme a lot. It looks really, really solid, and the colors look really, really good on it as well. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Carson Osebar's 2021 Brian Clausen tribute scheme, as this weekend Carson Osebar is paying tribute to one of his heroes, Brian Clausen. For those who don't know, a few years ago, Brian Clausen was killed in a sprint car accident, and we've seen a lot of tributes from the last couple of years from guys like Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, and multiple other drivers as well. This tribute scheme was really, really, really awesome, and I think it pays really good tribute to one of the best sprint car drivers, in my opinion, coming up through the ranks. The next paint scheme announcement we're going to take a look at is Daniel Suarez's 2021 GoPro Motorplex AMR scheme that we'll see in the Truck Series this weekend here when he drives for Young's Motorsports at Bristol Dirt. This paint scheme looks modern. It looks really, really awesome. I like what Kyle Sykes is doing over there at Trackhouse, because Trackhouse also helped kind of develop this car as well. It looks really, really awesome, and I can't wait to see this truck out. I think Daniel Suarez should be locked into the event on points. We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully racing can get in for him to get into the event. But yeah, this paint scheme looks really, really awesome. And then the final paint scheme and sponsor news we're going to take a look at is Corey LaJoie's 2021 Trucks and Knoxville scheme that we will see this weekend here at Bristol, as they are Spire Motorsports is promoting the Knoxville Truck Series race. Well, they're also, I think, working with Circuit America as well. They're promoting the Knoxville Truck Series race as well. This race, this paint scheme looks super, super awesome. The orange, the blue, all of it looks really, really awesome. It is a nice touch and a great paint scheme that we are going to see this weekend here at Bristol Dirt. And now we're going to go ahead and jump onto all the other major NASCAR stories we discuss here on today's episode. Let's start off with the National Tire Test that took place on Tuesday. So a lot of the details really did not come out from the National Tire Test specifically, but according to guys like Kurt Busch and Chase Briscoe who were at that tire test, they said that there was tire cording during the tire test, which makes plenty of sense as they have not raced on a track in 10 years. But what this means, the fact that there's tire cording, they said it improved, but what this means, the fact that there's tire cording, it looks like there's going to be tire fall off, which is really, really awesome, because what I love about NASCAR is when there's tire fall off. There's so many tracks, especially with the 550 horsepower package, tracks at Las Vegas, where tire wear doesn't really even matter. But the fact that tire fall off is probably going to matter for Nashville Superspeedway is really, really awesome. And I'm getting really excited about that. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. And good news overall, and great to hear from the Nashville Tire Test. The next news we're going to talk about is Cody Erickson, as he's going to be driving the 41 for Cram Enterprises at Bristol Dirt. I think Cody Erickson has raced for Cram Enterprise in the past, and I think he has a pretty solid dirt background as well. So I'm hoping for best for Cody Erickson. I think Dawes Cram was going to struggle if he drove this truck, no offense to him. But I'm really, really here. It's all really, really awesome here that Cody Erickson is going to drive the 41 for Cram Enterprises. I'm really happy to hear that overall, and good news overall on that front. It's really, really good news here for sure. The next news we're going to talk about is Martinsville and Richmond. We've been talking really recently for the last couple weeks about fans being allowed at Martinsville and Richmond. And yesterday, it was announced early in the morning that Martinsville and Richmond are going to announce that are going to have more than 1,000 fans at their races. Now, the number exactly for both those races has not been announced at this time, but the fact that there's going to be more than 1,000 fans at the Virginia races, Richmond did not even have fans at all last year. Martinsville last year in the second to last race, the penultimate race, only had 1,000 fans. The fact that they're going to have more than 1,000 fans for Martinsville Richmond is really, really exciting, especially since Martinsville is literally less than a week or 2 weeks away. It's really nice to hear that there's going to be more than 1,000 fans. Again, that number was not given at this point, but they can have up to 30% capacity. It's really, really awesome news to hear and great news overall for Martinsville and Richmond. The next story we're going to talk about is a little bit into the damaged vehicle policy. As Bob Hockers is actually responding to someone who was asking, is there any changes in the damaged vehicle policy? As this week, this race is a little bit different with the cars. He actually said that there is going to be no 6-minute damage clock for the pit crews when damage comes on the car. I am really happy to hear this. This is really, really good news overall. I really don't like the damaged vehicle policy overall in general. I think damaged vehicle policy is not my favorite thing in the world. The worst thing about it is a 6-minute clock for teams to go out there. I mean, one thing I will say is they actually kind of fixed these rules. Is back in 2017, the 6-minute damaged vehicle clock basically affected, and teams would basically the race be over if too many men went over the wall. And now you go 2 laps down if too many men go over the wall for that. But I am really happy that the 6-minute clock is not going to be in play for this weekend, especially since there's probably going to be a lot of damage and cars are going to be being banged. There's probably going to be some big wrecks as well this weekend. This is overall really exciting news and great news overall to hear on that front. The next stories we're going to talk about the starting lineups for the Truck Series and the Cup Series races at Bristol. Let's start off with the pole positions for these qualifying races. Starting on the pole for qualifying race 1 for the Truck Series is going to be Mike Marlar, who's driving the 56 for Timmy Hill's organization. He'll be starting on the pole for that. Qualifying race number 2, Mike Snyder, who's driving the 33 for A&M Brothers. He'll be starting on the pole for that. Qualifying race 3, Haley Deegan in the 1 is going to be starting on the pole. And qualifying race 4, J.R. Hefner is going to be starting on the pole. I really haven't taken a really big deep dive into who's the favorites for these races. I think Stuart Friesen's in heat number 1. I'm picking him to win that. I think Kyle Larson's either Heat 2 or Heat 3, whatever he is in, I'm probably going to be picking him. I don't remember what heat exactly he's in, but those are some of the favorites to watch for the event, but those are the pole positions for the qualifying heat races. And then we jump into the Cup heat starting lineup. So the qualifying race 1, Quinn Houff drew number 1 overall. That's why Quinn Houff is starting on the pole overall and will be starting first in qualifying race number 1. Qualifying race 2, Brad Keselowski is going to be starting on the pole, which Keselowski's probably going to struggle this weekend. Qualifying race 3, Alex Bowman is going to start on the pole in the 48 car. And qualifying race 4, Corey LaJoie is going to be on the pole for that. So my picks for each of these races, Kyle Larson's my pick for qualifying race 1 for Cup. Race 2 is going to be Christopher Bell. Race 3 is going to be Tyler Reddick. And then race 4 is going to be Chase Briscoe. Those are my picks for the qualifying races, who's going to win each of those. And Chase Briscoe is starting last, so he's definitely going to get a lot of points for sure. But those are the starting lineups for the Bristol Cup races and the Bristol Truck Series races as well. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to go ahead and talk about the TV ratings from Atlanta in the Pro Invitational. Let's start off with the Atlanta TV ratings, as according to Adam Stern, Fox earned a 2.21 rating and 3.724 million viewers for Atlanta. There's no direct comparison to last year, but Sunday is up slightly from the 6th Fox race in 2019, which had 3.67 million, 57 million viewers at Texas in 2019. And this is also something very important to note. There were 6 March Madness games that got a higher rating last weekend, but the race topped everything else in sports. This really is the first major win in the ratings bracket for NASCAR because, you know, we've had really bad ratings to start off this year, really coming from the Daytona 500. But the fact that we basically match 2019 Texas is a major win for NASCAR overall. And I'm hoping that this weekend the rain holds off so we can keep the ratings go up. And the fact that we had to go up against 6 March Madness games last year, I think was a really, really big reason why the ratings were down last year. For ratings were definitely up, down a little more than what they could have been. But it's really good overall that the ratings are definitely higher up and more viewership for that front. And then the next TV ratings we're going to take a look at in final ones is the Pro Invitational Series TV ratings, which took place on Wednesday. According to Adam Stern, FS1 earned 292,000 viewers for last night's virtual Bristol race, the first of 10 Pro Invitational events this year. Now, last year's Pro Invitational averaged around 1 million viewers, but the Sports Alert was shut down, events ran on Sundays, and they were not most simulcast on F-Fox. Steve Myers from iRacing basically said that their goal was to get about 200,000. They said if they got 200,000, that would be a really good area to range. The fact that they got more than what they were expecting is a major win overall. Now, I do think that as time goes on, there are going to be less people that is going to watch iRacing. I do think that Chicago Street Cars, we're going to talk about soon, that's on a schedule, will get a lot of viewers. But I do think overall there is going to be less viewership as time goes on with this series. So I think we're going to worn out, and I think people know really why we do have this event in general. But yeah, the ratings are definitely not too bad for the Pro Invitational. That's not bad for a Wednesday night race overall. And you also do have a lot of sports going on. You have the NHL going on. I think there were March Madness games going on. I could be wrong on that. But I think that March Madness was happening as well when this race happened. So not bad ratings overall for the Pro Invitational, but I do expect that as time goes on, there will be more ratings that will go down in the foreseeable future. And now we're going to go ahead and jump onto the first of two major stories in today's episode, as we're going to talk about a quote from October 3rd that AutoWeek released today to try to bring up clips for their website. In this, he said that Richard Petty said that dirt racing is not professional and that we are going backwards, and it's like high school football games or people going to high school football, NASCAR drivers going to high school football games or that are from like college and stuff. Now, if you read the article, there's actually a lot more that goes in the article than meets the eye. He says that he would like this event to succeed, but the quote that was brought up, he said it was dirt racing is not professional. Now, Twitter and a lot of other platforms saw this quote, and it was a firestorm. Now, one thing I want to bring up and bring this up is that this was from October 3rd. This is not a current quote, because in that article was also brought up that this was brought up for next season, which is currently this season. So that was a big problem right there. One thing I am going to say overall about this is saying that it's still a really bad take, regardless if it's 5 or 6 months ago. I don't think his opinion really has changed overall on that. But I don't think it's a really good take to say that dirt racing is not professional, especially since a lot of drivers in the dirt ranks and other series, including drivers that are racing the Cup Series, like Kyle Larson, like Christopher Bell, like Chase Briscoe, like Tyler Reddick, and even Bubba Wallace too, who race dirt racing at points, even Chase Lane and Kyle Busch, would say that dirt racing is professional and it is real. And drivers that do race dirt racing for a living, guys like Jonathan Davenport, Bobby Pierce, Corey Schutte, names that I bring up because these guys are guys that were on dirt, and I think that those guys would not appreciate these comments overall. Like I said, this article is from October 3rd, so his opinion overall could change overall. But I just don't like the idea of someone, who hasn't raced under. And by the way, if people could definitely say that he could take 30 of his wins away since he last raced 50 years ago. He also did say that he thought the last dirt race in that article would be like in 1970 when they raced in Raleigh. But I think that his quotes are definitely interesting. But just remember that article is from October. So that's really all I have to say on that, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump onto the final story of today's episode, as not the biggest story was the Pro Invitational Series. The biggest story that came out was reported. There is going to be a Chicago street race that is going to be taking in the Pro Invitational Series on June 2nd. And they will be racing on iRacing at Chicago for the Pro Invitational. Now, we talked about last week, early this week, basically as early as Monday and Tuesday, that NASCAR has been looking into racing on street circuits for really 1 or 2 street circuits, and it all started back in February of last year when they're having reports that they wanted to race around the LA Coliseum or Soldier Field, which is where all this backstory started. And Roger Penske brought up in a press conference and Zoom conference, we also talked about the contract extension talks, but we also talked about how he brought up that potentially that a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader could happen on a street race. And look at a few areas. You look at the cities of Detroit. You look in Toronto. There could potentially be a street course race happen. And NASCAR apparently have been in talks over last year about racing in the streets of Toronto potentially with IndyCar. But apparently those talks got seized because when the border closed this past year and with COVID-19, I think that's a big reason why it was not on the schedule, because apparently it had been discussed about being put on the schedule in 2021. That's really where all this backstory started. But let's go ahead and take a look at this layout for this racetrack. There's a lot of straightaways. There's definitely some technical parts of the track. It's pretty simplistic. It's a 2.19 circuit. I think it's 11 or 12 turns that are around the racetrack, and a lot of simplicity around the racetrack, but also difficulty as well. The reason that this is so important, more than it's just on iRacing, and why street races are definitely so important, is because of the fact that you're bringing your product down to the racetrack, to bring your product to the fans. Fans have to seek out these races that take place at these ovals, which are in the middle of nowhere, and they have to basically spend a lot of money and spend a lot more money than they usually would if they had to travel to those racetracks. This actually would bring the product to the racetrack, and yes, you would have thousands of hardcore fans that would show up to this event. even from different parts of the country, which would cost them money to travel to those events. But people that are living in the city of Chicago would definitely be intrigued to come out to those events and try it out. If they're hooked, if the racing's really, really good, regardless of which city it is in, more fans would definitely maybe be intrigued and might become hardcore fans over time and maybe watch things like Daytona 500. If they get hooked on a driver, they might start watching more consistently. So to me, I think that this is a major win-win overall for NASCAR. The fact that these discussions are happening, and this may not just happen in Chicago, but the fact that they're bringing this to iRacing, I think NASCAR is gauging, and I think that in the next couple years, the next 2 or 3 years, I do believe that we are going to see some NASCAR Cup Series races on street racing. I'm not saying it's going to be in 2022 even, because Roger Benson even brought up that these guys are going to have to get used to the next-gen car. But I think by the time we get to around to 2023, maybe even 2024, I think it is very likely that we are going to see a street race in NASCAR, at least one. I will say, though, I think it needs to be only one event that takes place, and I think there needs to be a rotation at different tracks. For 1 year, go to Chicago. For 1 year, go to Los Angeles. Maybe 1 year, go to St. Louis for all we know. Maybe go to Houston for 1 year. Maybe go to Miami. I mean, we've talked about, like, Miami. You know, they were talks in Formula One about them having a street circuit, and this year, in 2021 for IndyCar, they're going to be running the Nashville Grand Prix. So that's really going to, I think, it'll be a fun event. I know a lot of people, they're going to be going out to that race in Nashville, even with the COVID restrictions. That race isn't until August, so we may have all the COVID restrictions gone by the time we reach August. So that will definitely bring a lot more fans to that event. But a lot of people that live in the Nashville area, this is big for the city of Nashville. And if the city is able to get behind a big event like this, I think that would be really cool. Now, the one thing to note is if it is to take place in Chicago, Chicago sports fans are definitely hooked. And if something is bad, they will trash it to death. Think about Jay Cutler. Think about all the other people like Anthony Rizzo. Look at Chicago White Sox. No one really cares for Chicago White Sox. But I think that this overall is extremely exciting. I think the future implications of a Chicago street circuit race is really exciting, and I cannot wait to see if this gets announced really soon, because I'm really excited that they're bringing this iRacing. I think this is really exciting overall. So, anyway, that is going to be it for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on so you can be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my page as well. Links below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about NASCAR racing in Chicago on iRacing? Do you think this will succeed or not? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about Richard Petty's comments from October that surfaced about him saying that dirt racing is not professional? Let me know in the comments below. This weekend, we are racing at Bristol Dirt. I'm really excited about that. We're going to be heading down there this weekend. We have a Truck Series race hopefully this weekend. Hopefully weather, fingers crossed, holds off. We also have the Cup Series race this Sunday. Hopefully that fingers crossed that weather holds off for that event as well. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like it too. Can't recommend more of these great videos out to you guys. Do that. I would greatly and truly appreciate it. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.